What if I told you that there's a race in a small town in the northern part of Spain that once a year closes down its roads, putting up haystacks on the street and let bikes race just like it's the 1950s all over again? If you've heard of it, you're probably from Spain. Ever since I really started to get into learning Spanish, YouTube figured that out and started to show me Spanish stuff. And one day I just had this thing on my feed. A modern day street race with spectators just inches away from riders passing by. What was shocking to me is that there seems to be no international coverage of this, even though it does have quite significant impact on modern day MotoGP. So I hope with this video I can bridge that gap and make the excitement of this race accessible for a broader audience. So sit back while we go through the history, the specialties and the details of the Gran Premio de Velocidad de la Bañeza in this video. The first year in which the race in La Bañeza was held was in 1952, and with some exceptions, it has been held there every following year. In 1945, the moto club Bañezano took charge of the organization of the race. This was a very important step, as motorsports in Spain just wasn't nowhere near where it is today. From the 1950s all the way through the 1980s, permanent racetracks in Spain were scarce. So clubs that organized these street races were essential to the growth of the sport. Just to give you an idea of how important they were and remained throughout the years, even as late as 1983, 1/3 of the domestic Spanish road racing championship was held on the urban environments of the country. In 1968, the arguably greatest Spanish motorcycle legend Ángel Nieto won the Gran Premio de Velocidad de la Bañeza. In 1969, Ángel Nieto became the first Spaniard to become a world champion, and after that he became a world champion 12 more times. Following Nieto, there was Ricardo Tormo. While Tormo didn't win in La Bañeza, his name is also frequently mentioned when it comes to the greatest that ever raced there, since he's also a two-time world champion. Following Tormo, there was Jorge Martínez Aspar. After his win in La Bañeza in 1981, he joined the World Championship in 1982, and following that won a total of 4 World Championships from 1986 up until 1988. Following Aspar, there was Manuel Champi Herrero. Champi won in La Bañeza in 1984, then went on to racing at the World Championship in 1985 and became a world champion in 1989. And while street circuits eventually were removed from the domestic Spanish championship, the Moto Club Bañezano kept organizing this race as an annual, more like standalone event. Throughout the 1990s and into the 21st century, the popularity of this street race has continued to grow, attracting 60 to 70,000 people every year, and now basically has the reputation of a 74-year-old cult classic. To put those 70,000 fans into perspective, as of 2025, La Bañeza has a population of around 10,000 residents. The street circuit is roughly 1.75 kilometers short, which translates to 1.1 miles. While, yes, it is short, keep in mind we're basically talking ancient, tight European streets where the riders take one 90-degree turn after another. Right next to the curbs of the sidewalks there are either temporary plastic barriers or haystacks to dampen crash impact. These days it's a special sight to see a race where there aren't many fences or air fences and spectators are just mere inches away from the riders passing by. The Gran Premio of La Bañeza has stayed true to its roots. This can be seen when you look at the bikes that race there. And also, it wouldn't make sense for leader bikes to race there since they basically wouldn't leave first gear. Over the years, especially in the two-stroke days, the common displacements of the time were racing 50cc, 80cc, 125cc and 250cc. And today, for modern standards, the displacements that take part here are on the smaller side of things and mainly from yesteryear. As of 2025, there are 4 different classes: 2-stroke classics, 4-stroke classics, Euro twins, and the most modern mixed class of 125 GP and Moto3. I guess, judging from the names alone, you can already tell what kind of bikes they are. Since we're talking about tiny little winding streets, they're not doing Isle of Man type speeds. But still, going over 140k on a small town street close to spectators like that, surely it's different. Speaking of passing spectators, the classic categories race for 12 laps, whereas the 125GP and Moto3 class does 15 laps. The individual starting grids are pretty full for that small track. I've looked through the riders that signed up for 2026 and there are close to 40 riders registered for the 4-stroke classics and Euro Twins, exactly 30 in the 125 and Moto3, and 57 riders signed up for the 2-stroke classics. From all the footage that I can find, and without having been there yet, definitely on the plan for next year, the Gran Premio de Velocidad de la Bañeza looks like a true spirited motorcycle race. One where everything is super open and loose and just very, for a lack of better word, original. Residents watching the race from their balconies, fans being able to walk up to the bikes, mechanics and riders, and placing themselves in the streets wherever they can find a spot. You know, just stuff like that. It just seems like this really close and intense and Spanish vibe, and I just want to go there. I think the word I was looking for was passionate. Passionate. When I wrote the script, I just couldn't think of that word, I guess. Now I know this is YouTube, and someone might say, oh, there's also a street race here and a street race there, and trust me, I know a few of them, and I know that there are so many cool street races out there that no one has ever heard of. And honestly, I'd also love to make videos about a bunch more street races, and I probably will, but when it comes to specifically the impact on MotoGP, the Gran Premio de Velocidad de la Bañeza, I practiced that, just has the upper hand on one thing, and that is... There is no denying that the Isle of Man TT and the road races in Northern Ireland, the mountain races in France and Italy, and even something like the road race in Schleiz have had significant impact on not just racing but motorcycling as a whole. But when you start to look at the history of specifically MotoGP, all the individuals and their impact involved, and then connect the dots, a lot of strings that made the Grand Prix sport to what it is today will connect to La Bañeza. Especially as I think the most historical figure used it as a stepping stone for the world stage, Angel Nieto. This man is single-handedly like one of the most important people to the sport and definitely worth a video on his own. If you want to see that, leave a like so I know that you want to see it, and subscribe while you're at it so you won't miss it. But to make the story short for this video, the chances Nieto was given after the Gran Premio de la Bañeza opened the doors for the entire country of Spain, and we are still seeing the effects of that. His success basically snowballed into something much, much bigger. Thanks to his accolades, the sport nationally grew and even has helped many young riders. Like, okay, it might sound crazy, but hang on. I don't think we would even have MotoGP today. I know, hang on. Would we still have Grand Prix motorcycle racing? Most likely. Would it be called MotoGP? A little less likely. Back when Dorna, a Spanish sports promotion company, bought the rights to motorcycle Grand Prix racing, they did so because they saw enough potential in the sport to do so. And they only saw that potential from the perspective of, well, Spaniards. Sure, Italy was big into the sport as well, but the Italian suits that would have had the interest and the funding were busier with trying to take over the world of superbikes. Back in 1992. And before 1992, the year when Dorna bought the rights, licensing and the right owners were all over the place. Ecclestone had some rights and the rest was spread, and it's a mess. You can look it up, it's a topic of its own. Well, anyway, the point I was trying to make is that Angel Nieto used the Gran Premio de la Bañeza as a stepping stone to greater ventures, which eventually opened the doors for a lot of other Spaniards. Which made the sport in Spain so big that the right company with the right intent and the necessary funding to come in at the right time and take control of things. Now, without going too much into detail about every rider that I've mentioned in this video, one that I also need to at least slightly talk about is the winner of 1989, Jorge Martinez Aspar. When he was still an active rider back in 1992, he has already started his own team. By 2006, Álvaro Bautista brought the first world championship to the team, of which 6 more followed in the years since. As of writing the script for this, it does seem like they're getting a 7th title in 2026. Aspar seems to have overtaken the former king of rookie scouting in Aki Ayo. Pretty much all of the latest most promising riders grew under the wings of the Aspar racing team. Guevara, Alonso, Olgado, and now Quiles. I just hope that you understand now what I mean with trying to connect the dots looking back at it. All of these riders that I just mentioned, Quiles, Alonso, Olgado and so on, they can all be traced back to the Gran Premio of La Bañeza. Have I exaggerated in some parts of this video for the benefit of storytelling and viewer engagement? Probably. But it can't be denied that without the riders taking that historic street race as their stepping stone into greater ventures, MotoGP wouldn't be the same. I don't know. This topic was just something that hooked me. Once I traced it all back, it kind of blew my mind. Sure, the race nowadays is more of an reenactment of its glory days, but it's still so special to see and how true to its roots it has stayed. If you want to know about my recent experience at another historic venue, you can watch my experience at the 8 hours of Spa-Francorchamps right here. On the other side are videos about 2 MotoGP legends from Japan. Thanks everyone for watching, and until next time.
Bye bye.